right loft. Now, I tend to use my 58 degree club. I don't want you to use too much loft. I do see people kind of going for a 60, 62, 64. Then once you open the face, you've almost got too much loft. So something like 55, 54, 56, 58, those are the type of clubs that you want to use. But you'll notice here that my golf club has got high bounce. I've got 12 degrees of bounce. Bounce is basically how rounded the sole is. The higher the number, the more bounce the golf club has got. Once we start to get that number down, kind of 6, 4, it can often become more difficult to extract the ball from the bunker. So my advice would be a club that you're going to use from the bunker, get double figures in the bounce. That's 10, 12, maybe 14. So the technique that we're going to go through in this video is what I would call my basic bunker shot. Now, for all the shots around the green, I'm going to have what I call my basic shots. That's a basic pitch, a basic bunker, a basic chip. I do ultimately want the ability to make adjustments to those shots if I need that ball to go maybe higher, lower, more roll, less roll, spin, etc. But this is the basic shot, and if we can learn this one first, we can then layer that up with different options going forwards. So to help us with the bounce, having selected a top quality golf club with the right amount of bounce, we're going to open the golf club, which exposes that bounce even more, and it makes it sit lower than the leading edge. So the key thing would be to make sure we rotate the golf club open before we place our hands on the golf club. Really, really common. I'll see golfers take their normal address, and you can see that the club face there will be pretty square. They then start to rotate the golf club to the right, and their hands suddenly get into a very strange position down at impact. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the club face first. We're then going to apply the hands. Now, when I see golfers in the bunker opening the club face, very rarely do I see a golfer opening the golf club enough. I often see them maybe rotate it by 5, 10 degrees. Let's get this golf club a good 45 degrees rotated to my right. Then when I apply my hands, yes, it's going to look a little strange at setup, but this is definitely going to help us. It's going to give us more loft on the golf club. And as I said a moment ago, it's going to expose the bounce a little bit more. So let's go through the starting position. Notice how I've got a relatively wide stance. Consider I'm only trying to hit this ball, maybe it's that flag that's at 15 yards there. So a relatively wide stance, and I've got that ball pretty much maybe a club head width from my lead heel. So it's quite a long way up in my stance. Now we're going to flare that lead foot out a little bit more than we would normally. So I'm working the toe more towards the target, and I'm going to feel like I set a little bit more weight onto my left side, but I'm going to do that through my midsection. So that's through my knees and my hips. I don't want to set weight left by moving my upper body forward. I want to set the weight left by moving my midsection across this way. So you'll notice what I call this, I squeeze my lead knee over my toes a little bit more. So I flared my foot out and squeezed my knee over my toes a little bit more. Also, I want you to notice how I've got the golf club as close as I can to vertical. We certainly don't want any forward lean. A little bit of backward lean isn't the end of the world, but vertical will be a good guide to start from. I should have the sternum just behind the golf ball. That's another good checkpoint for you. When you're setting that weight left, make sure you're not doing it too much and getting the sternum too much in line with the golf ball. So there's my starting position from face on. Now from down the line, you're going to notice that I have aligned myself a little bit to the left of that flag. It's not excessive. When I look down, the leading edge of that golf club is going to point way, way out to the right-hand side of that flag. Now, if I unfortunately make contact with the ball before the sand, it will head over in this direction. But if I play this correctly, the golf club, the loft of the golf club just points upwards. It doesn't point out to the right. The leading edge points to the right. The loft points straight up. So provided I make good contact and I release the club correctly, I should find that the ball is going to come out a little closer to where I swing as opposed to where I actually have the leading edge pointing. So the other things I'm going to do in setup, I'm going to make the handle sit a little bit lower than it would normally. I'm also going to feel like I sit and I flex my knees a little bit more than I would normally. These two things are going to do make a couple of adjustments to my starting position. My upper body starts to get a little bit closer to vertical. I'm less tilted over as I start to flex the knees more. And what that enables us to do is it enables us to make a golf swing which is a little bit flatter. So the angle at which I swing is less vertical, closer to horizontal. It's obviously not horizontal, but it's a little closer. That's going to help me with my approach into the ball. It's going to help me be nice and shallow, and it's going to help me extract that ball with some good height. Really key in the bunker shots that we take our time over the starting position. If we can get the setup correct, we greatly increase the chances of us performing this shot to a high standard. Too often I'll see golfers struggling with the setup, And even from there, I'm looking at it thinking they're not giving themselves the best chance. So we've got the setup correct. We're now going to talk a little bit about how we're actually going to deliver the golf club to the golf ball. And the way we deliver the club is very much like you would for a lob shot. The feeling being that we're trying to return the golf club to its vertical sort of alignment. And I'm really trying to feel that this left wrist, this lead wrist extends. Extends means making this movement. Now, the reason that's going to happen is I'm really trying to accelerate the club head with my trail hand past my hands. So you can see that very, very strange looking release here. If we did that with any other club in the bag, we'd certainly not hit some great shots. But for a bunker shot, this is absolutely key. And I'm keeping the loft on the golf club. I'm trying to get the golf club to point back towards me. I do not want any rotation over this way with the forearms. I want to feel like I release the club with my left wrist extending, the loft points back to me, and as I do that, I feel like I rotate my body through to the finish. It takes a little bit of practice because this is not how you would release, many of the clubs in your bag, certainly not driver or your irons. Then we're looking at contact point. Where do I need to hit the sand? Now you can experiment a little bit with this, and it will depend on the type of sand. Is it hard sand? Is it soft sand? It will also change how far the ball goes. I would, as a guide, look to try and hit maybe 3 to 4 inches behind the ball. That gives you a good margin for error. If you're struggling with bunker play, trying to hit too close to the ball can often be, a little bit intimidating. You can often have the idea that the ball's going to go too far, and often if you hit a couple of those shots, then the confidence drops and we struggle. So good 3 to 4 inches behind the ball, and we should be fine. Right, let's go ahead and hit one. So I've got all those starting positions checked off. I'm now going to go through, release that club as we said, and see if we can get it onto that green near the hole. Okay, so it certainly came out maybe a little bit lower than I intended. However, it's probably rolled within about 6 or 7 feet of the hole. I wouldn't be particularly unhappy with the shot from here. So let me just hit another one for you, so if we can get a little bit more height on this one. Now, interestingly, as I hit that, there's probably a little bit less sand in this bunker than I first thought. So it's going to change a little bit about where I want to hit the sand. I'm going to hit a little bit less sand here and see if I can get a little bit more height on this shot. Okay, a little bit more height on that one. Didn't roll quite as far. But again, I've got those both out comfortably. I've got a chance at getting my up and down and move on to the next hole without dropping the shot. Bunkers. Difficult to get up and down if we can make sure you're not taking 4 from here. So out the bunker on the green, 2 putts at worst. That's definitely going to help you lower the score. So some basic bunker techniques there. If you can work on those, hopefully you're going to get to the point where the bunker shots, don't sort of strike fear into you and you don't really, worry about them too much. You can get them on the green, 2 putts at worst, get to the next hole, and you're going to keep your score going with some good momentum. Thanks for watching. Usual stuff is down below as always. There's a link down there. Just subscribe if you're not a subscriber. There's always a comments box and there's also a like button. If you did like the video, give it a thumbs up. It does help me a huge amount. Thanks for watching, and we shall see you again soon.